Welcome back to another episode of the Piano Pod. I am your host, Yukimi. Today, we're thrilled to have the esteemed presence of Grammy Award-winning pianist and Steinway artist, Kristhyan Benitez. His exceptional album, Latin American Classics, won a Latin Grammy for Best Classical Album in 2021. Throughout the season, we've had the privilege of delving into the rich tapestry of Latin American piano literature, engaging with artists and Latin American music experts like Carlos Franzetti, Alison Brewster Franzetti, and Walter Aparicio. Each conversation has unveiled the profound diversity and fusion present within Latin American music and culture. So, with Kristhyan's perspective, who is based in vibrant New York City but rooted in his Venezuelan heritage, we aim to further explore the depth of Latin American music and culture today. So, with the Piano Pod's guests roster spanning from Peru to Bolivia, Argentina, and now Venezuela, our journey promises to uncover the rich, multifaceted layers of this captivating musical landscape. But before we dive into our conversation with Kristhyan, let me take a moment to explore his illustrious background. Known for his vivid and passionate concerts, Kristhyan explores a rich blend of classical and Latin American music, earning acclaim as a leading figure among a new generation of dynamic Venezuelan virtuosos. Praised by Jose Antonio Abreu, founder of Venezuela's El Sistema, as a crucial leader in Latin America's musical movement and mentored by Philippe Entremont, Kristhyan's performances resonate worldwide. He has performed in iconic venues like Philharmonic Hall in Berlin and Davies Symphony Hall in San Francisco, collaborating with top conductors, including Claudio Abbado and Gustavo Dudamel. In 2019, Kristhyan's prowess was showcased during a 13-city recital tour in China, reinforcing his global reputation. His album, Latin American Classics, captured a Latin Grammy for Best Classical Album, featuring compelling compositions from across the continent. His latest work, Afro-Cuban Dances, also earned a Latin Grammy nomination in 2023. Mr. Benitez's discography includes over 50 tracks for Steinway's Spirio and albums such as Miniatures, which won a bronze medal at the Global Music Awards. His leadership extends to educational roles, having served as assistant conductor of the Philharmonic Orchestra of the Americas and artist in residence for Venezuela's El Sistema. Kristhyan is a recipient of Jose Felix Ribas Award for his cultural contributions. So join us as we explore Kristhyan's remarkable career achievements, including his accolades, awards, and examine how his multifaceted identity influences his creative processes. We'll also delve into how he has pioneered new ways of experiencing music through innovative approaches to music production, extending from his traditional concert performances to more experimental projects. Before getting started with this special episode, I want to welcome all of our first timers today to the Piano Pod. I'm a classical pianist and educator from New York City. Whether diving deep into a piano career, working professionally in the classical music scene, or simply having a passion for piano tunes, this podcast is your backstage pass to the fascinating world of piano music. To our incredible TPP fans and loyal listeners, welcome back. Your continued support means the world to us. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to rate and review the show on your favorite podcasting platform. Your feedback helps others discover the joy of the Piano Pod. Now, without further ado, I'm thrilled to introduce Mr. Kristhyan Benitez and kick off our conversation. So sit back and relax, and please enjoy the show. You are listening to the Piano Pod, where we talk to the brightest minds in the industry about how they are bringing the piano into the 21st century. Welcome, Kristhyan, to the Piano Pod.
Thank you. Hi, how are you? Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here.
Thank you. Oh, honor is ours. Like an honor to have you, and thank you for being here. This season on the Piano Pod, I've had amazing opportunities to chat with some incredible talents from our industry who either hail from Latin America or passionately promote and perform Latin American music. And I've learned so much, and I'm so looking forward to diving deeper into the world of Latin American music and culture today with you. So I'm ready to learn.
I'm excited.
Great. Let's start with this. Your album, which one of the albums which won the Latin Grammy for Best Classical Album, which in 2021, I believe, and the title is Latin American Classics, and which was also produced under the Steinway label.
That's correct.
Wonderful, and congratulations. And so I watched actually one piece from the album. It's called Adios, Cuba by Ignacio Cervantes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what inspired you to create the Latin American Classics album?
So, I am originally from Venezuela. I grew up in Venezuela, and as part of the musical education that I got in the conservatory, we were always encouraged, and we need always to add as part of our repertoire music from Latin America and from Venezuela. So I kind of like grew up with that. That was part of like my DNA, and through the years, I saw that sometimes people were referring to those type of music as like a different and separate um, part of the classical music world. And I started like researching a little bit, and some of those composers were actually friends and colleagues of the classical composers that we know, right? So I was like, yeah, so why there's a difference, if I recall, and as we know as musicians, a lot of composers were inspired by folklore, right? By traditions, same way as Latin America. So one of the things that sometimes people were making a differentiation about it was that, oh, in Latin America they were using more folk music, folklore. And I was like, yeah, but for example, Brahms was using folk music, Borjak was using folk music, Smetana. You have a lot of composers that use that element, like French music as well. So it was like, this is the same type of music. It's just like classical music from composers that were born in Latin America, right? So I needed, to be able to show um, audiences about what we are. And when I say what we are, I'm not only talking about being Venezuelan, but being from Latin America. It's like different countries with a extremely rich culture that must be put there in the world. I think like the same way that we musicians are, being working on so hard on exposing contemporary music, new composers, new waves of doing music. We also need to kind of like activate some sort of way of like the nostalgia of what happened there. there are so many different composers, a lot of them unknown, with fantastic music. And so I have that, urge to show a little bit of who we are as Latin Americans.
Mm. Well, thank you. Well said. I mean, Latin America, the continent itself is so diverse, right? I mean, so how did you go about selecting the specific pieces for this album and why you chose these particular pieces from like Cuba, Argentina, Brazil, and of course your country of origin, Venezuela and Mexico as well?
I started doing a project with Stanway about creating this catalog of Latin American music, and the first thing that came to my mind was I wanna play the music that I love, that I grew up with, that makes me happy and makes me wanna showcase better. I think like when we have pieces of music that we perform that we really love, the way that interconnects the artist with the audience, it creates some sort of magic. So it was like I want to create that, but at the moment it was just like just doing a catalog for Stanway Stereo piano, which is a high resolution piano, and then I started to just record music that I knew since I was a little kid, music that I wanted to perform, that I wanted to be part of that catalog, and then it changed, the whole project, because like that catalog became the album. And then when we talked about doing the album, I was thinking, okay, I want to make a structure. I want to divide it into countries. I want to, to make like a bigger thing, a bigger project. But then the pandemic came, and I remember my producer calling me saying like, "You already recorded 24 tracks of music. I know that we have a plan, that you want some structure, but we don't know what's going to happen with the pandemic. And I think this is a really good material that we have here to release an album. Would you want to do it?" And then I was like, yes. And I was happy at the same time because everything that I was selecting at first was just coming from the fact that I want to be more connected to the music that I grew up with, that I love. So that album specifically have music that I really cherish, that I really love, and that I wanted to show audiences. So it was like a really uh, rewarding, nurturing process. And then, of course, from that, then I started like making more structure. Like I want to add more countries. There are so many composers. Like I can just make maybe like 10 albums of just one country, like Mexico, for example. That musical uh, culture diversity is just like is so rich, but I need to just kind of like select, and sometimes selecting is complicated. But I was just trying to follow my intuition and then connect with music that really connects with me emotionally. I think musical connection is something that is very, very, very important, especially after everything that we've been through. That human connection, that magical connection, that chemistry, that electricity that creates the artist with the music, and then we transfer that to the audience, is very important. So I was just trying to connect emotionally with music, with Latin American music, to show in that album.
Then, do you have any favorite piece on this album? If so, what makes it stand out to you personally? Or maybe you love all of them?
I love all of them. I have to say that in that album, there's a piece by Ginastera, the Suite of Creole Dances. That piece, actually, I cherish that piece so much, and like I always thank Ginastera and that piece, because it was a piece that actually started the whole project. It's interesting because it's a piece by Ginastera from Argentina, but he composed that piece in New York when he was living in New York. So for me, it was some sort of like, me, a Latin American that living in New York, start, to build some sort of path with Stanway at that moment they didn't know who I was, anything like that, and then just kind of like connect. So because of that piece is that we are doing what we're doing right now. So I would say like I love them all, but that piece specifically is something that is very important to me. Also, the Adios a Cuba by Cervantes that we also did after we did a music video with Steinway. It talks about the fact that a person has to exile a country. So for me, being an immigrant and everything that is going on right now in my country with exile, that is something that has been always very close to me, and it's hard, it's painful, but we create magic through pain as well. So I think I needed also to show that in that album, and that's also a very, very important piece for me. We live in the States and we're not necessarily from here. Like we were not necessarily born here. We live here, we are from here. But that story is kind of like relatable to any culture, like when you leave your country for many different reasons. You leave your country because you want to leave your country, or you're forced to leave your country, or life happens that you have, like things like that. So it's a very like universal story. For anyone, like even from people that live here in the United States, that they have to move from a state to another. Like you have to move, that moving part, that emotional journey that we all live. Even if we like move 2 blocks away, there's an emotional movement there. And I think we have to pay attention to that because, especially as artists, we can't open universes we can create from that feeling, and we have to be always connected with feeling. I think like that's a very important thing. I know that in classical music, we need to build up a technical skills like to the top level, and we're all doing that, or we did that at some point. I think we're still doing it, while we keep practicing and evolving. But the emotional part, that's something that also have to be nourished, like you have to be, like we have to water it every day. And we can be better human beings if we are connected to it.
Sure.
Mm.
And then that's that's one of the reasons we play music. And also, all of a sudden music comes alive, right? When you put
Yeah.
that part of yourself into the music, music making. Before, I go to the next question, I want to know the characteristics of Venezuelan music. So, I get to interview Walter Aparicio. He is also the champion of the Latin American music, and he actually is the one who recommended you, one of the people who recommended me to interview you. He is obviously the foundation for the Bolivian artists, so he
Yeah.
told me many things about Bolivian music. It's so fascinating, the mixture of indigenous culture to European influence to so many others. So how about Venezuelan music?
Yeah, so I think like I have some sort of like flag now, that like motto that this kind of like, have you ever seen, I'm sure people have seen like this Instagram trend, like the dude with the sign, like the
Oh, yes, do it with the
so
song.
like
Yes.
I'm the one that's saying like we are from Latin America and we have a superpower, and the superpower that we have is the mix of cultures. Um, we all of Latin America in different, percentages. We have influence from European culture. We have influence, of course, for indigenous because they were there already, and also we have influence from Africa. Like the Spaniards were bringing slaves from Africa at that time, but the most beautiful thing is like the way we were kind of like merging together, and even if you don't have, like in your DNA, that little part of, let's say, like African culture, which I'm sure like we all have that a little bit, in Latin America, we some sort of like we are splashed by it, by the music, by the culture, by the festivities that we celebrate. Um, one of the most interesting thing is like how the Catholic Church had to some sort of like adapt a little bit to the African culture and to indigenous culture in order to blend. They were forced. But right now, when you think about it, like traditions and all of that, it's all together. And sometimes, we were thinking, I think, in the past, that people were not conscious about that, and it's actually a superpower. Like it's part of our identity. We're a mixture, and being a mixture gives us variety, gives it is but natural. It's not forced, it's not something that we have to make up, we have to kind of like make a construct to we're just born that way. And I'm not saying that we are better than everybody else, but it's something that's through history. We were kind of like, oh, the Latin culture is kind of like a, like a lower culture, and on the contrary, like we have we adapt, and we were open, force or not, in the past, to that mixture, and that gives us a lot of color. And I think that's something that's interesting, and that's why sometimes like our music sounds on a different way. There's some sort of like colors, some sort of like, of course there's rhythm, um, a specific rhythm. And when you go through all Latin America, like from Mexico all the way to Argentina, Chile, although we are different, like our accents are different, the way that we feel the music and the way that we want to create, it's some sort of like equal, like the same, like we come from the same core. um and in Venezuela we have that, like we have influence of indigenous, we have influence of African, we have influence of European. Venezuela specifically, not like in the 1900s, but like in this like Second World War, for example, we had a lot of immigration from Europe, Italian, French, Portuguese, Germans, like, so that mixture, like even now, like you talk to a German, you know person that immigrates Venezuela, and then they some sort of like they have this interesting way of seeing life that is different, and that's because it's kind of like nurtured by what we are giving. Maybe we're like, I don't know, too informal sometimes, and that informality, is something that gave us the door, like that opened the door for immigrants to came to our country, and then have more mixture. So we're a part of a mixture, and being mixed is so important and so um, fulfilled. You feel so full of joy, full of color, full of, and then that transcends to everything. Arts, music, um, different expressions. So in Venezuela, we have that. We are although we're from South America, we are on the coast of South America, so we get that Caribbean also like flavor into it.
Wow.
Uh, it is interesting, and then it is also interesting, and I encourage people to have some sort of playlist or listen to music from Mexico all the way down, or from Argentina all the way up, and then you'll see there are a lot of similarities, but also the variety is just astonishing.
Obviously, you won the Latin Grammy, and that's a huge, huge milestone. Where were you when you received the award?
So when I got the nomination, I was here in New York. I never expected. I when I saw it, I was like, oh my god, I cannot believe it! Like, this is insane. This is not happening. And I remember that still, like, I have it right here, um, with me
Wow.
right there.
Wow, I see it. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
um, and I still, like, till this day, sometimes it it feels like it was a dream, you know. um I always thought like of Grammys of being, like for like pop music and rock, and like, which, all of those genres are amazing. But then for classical music, I don't know, like I never understand it. And I went to a ceremony that was happening in Vegas at the time. It was like post pandemic, so it was very weird situation, like the whole thing. And I was just trying to enjoy the moment. I was like, I think this is like the only time in my life that I'm gonna be walking a red carpet. This is like insane. I never expected that. I don't do music for that. It was just like, um And we went through the whole process. I saw the nominations, and then when I heard Latin American Classic, my name, my producer name, John Feiner, we were just like ecstatic. We were just like extremely happy. And when we were walking on the red carpet after, one a very famous artist, Jorge Drexler, is a singer, songwriter, pop artist, like it's like a huge, a guy. He approached me and he said, like, that like the classical, like Grammy for classical music is like one of the most important things here. And I'm like, no, it's not possible, like that, no. And then he's like, yes, it is, because a classical music album, you cannot add effects to it. So what you listen to, besides of like editing or like a little, thing, there's nothing. It's very like naked. It's raw. There's no auto tune. There's no, special effects to, especially when you're doing an album that is only piano. Um, and then that kind of like resonated with me, and I was like, okay, I think we're doing something that is important, and I want to keep doing it for the rest of my life. There was some sort of like reassurance of, this is a hard path, because it's not easy for musicians, but it's not easy for anyone. Like, life is just complex. But I was so happy to be part of the musical um, world, and just a little bit, just like one little dot of that huge universe, and representing who I am, as an artist and as a person, with my culture. So it was just incredible.
Wow. Well, congratulations again.
Thank you.
And also your another album, latest album, Afro-Cuban Dances, was nominated
Yeah.
for Latin Grammy in 2 years later, 2023, in the Best Classical Album category. So this album is filled with pieces by Cuban composer Ernesto Lecuona. Why you chose his music?
Well, I feel like part of my heart belongs to Cuba, somewhere or the other. When I was growing up, I had the opportunity to study with a fantastic Cuban pianist, and then it happens that when I came to New York to study, I studied at the Manhattan School of Music. I also studied with another Cuban teacher, Solomon Minkowski, rest in peace. And I don't know. I feel like Cuban culture and Venezuelan culture, they kind of like, they feel very similar. I had the urge to show a little bit more of what Cuban culture was, and some people like it, some people don't like it. The fact that the Spaniard with the slaves, the first country that they came and conquered was Cuba. So everything happened there first and then expanded through Latin America. Um, Lecuona was actually the first composer in history, and this is something that not a lot of people know. And that was also the reasons for me of like creating kind of like this album, is he was the first composer that added African elements into classical music. I put it into a regular classical music stage, and it was very controversial, the fact that he was like adding like, drums like into like piano rhythms and like doing things like that. So it was like, what's going on with this, like, I think this is something that people should know, and feel proud of it. And at the same time, all of these selections of pieces, the Afro-Cuban Dances, which is a suite, and then I added four more pieces, but this selection of this suite, it talks a lot about the carnival celebration. And as I was telling you before, um, so the carnival was, instated by the Catholic Church, but actually the festivities of carnival were in mask, of being, like hidden. It's all African. So it was a very interesting moment when they were celebrating the carnival, the processions of carnival. They were having the parties, like outside the celebrations, with masks on. So they were all equal, right? There were no Spanish, no indigenous, no African. They were all wearing masks. And then it was very, very interesting because at night, they took off the mask, and then they were going some sort of like underground parties or like
Mhm.
celebration without mask, but they were all mixing together. But it was something like hidden. So I wanted to show also that in this album. Also, it was an album that is very dear to me. Um, I created the idea. Is the first time that I play a piece on my own. There's a piece on my own in the album that I dedicated to Ernesto Lecuona, like in his style. Also, I'm highlighting his sister, Ernestina Lecuona, which was the reason that Lecuona became a pianist and a composer. And she was kind of like overshadowed. She was part of Cuban musical tradition and history. She wrote a lot of songs. She wrote, like she was famous, she was important, but she was forgotten. So I wanted to highlight that. And I did an arrangement of one of her songs, and put it in the album, understanding that she was a very important part of who Ernesto was. The other important thing is that I relate that, and I was doing that in concerts, especially here in the United States, is that Lecuona and Gershwin were really, really good friends. They were
Oh,
they were
really?
interchanging letters. There were like a lot of communications. And when Gershwin wrote Rhapsody in Blue, in response, kind of like a satirical response, Lecuona wrote a piece that is called The Black Rhapsody that nobody knows. Um, and I think it's been recorded just like the piano solo version, but there's a piano and orchestra version, like similar to what Gershwin did, but using African elements and like using the language of Lecuona. So it's very interesting, like how we are like connected and we don't even know. So for me, it was very important to highlight that. And then I dare to draw the cover of the album. So the cover is me doing it, trying to like, kind of like put there the what I feel about the album. The colors, the rhythm, the culture, and so it's a project that is kind of like a baby. uh, I was really, really, really involved in creating the idea, and I have to say that the piece, my piece that is in the album, it was a product of an improvisation, and it was very, very, very scared to do it for an album. I do it like for myself, but I think like I've been trying to kind of like open up myself into that world. Um, and I know a lot of people know that this is not something new. Like improvisation in classical music exists since Bach, you know. And for some reason, classical musicians were kind of like take up that element. It's like, oh, you cannot improvise. Improvisation is for jazz, or and it is not true. So I want to kind of like get in touch again with that feeling. It was very scary, I have to say. And it's funny stories when I was recording it in the studio. I just did it in one take because it was an improvisation. When I finished, I remember telling my producer, "This is not going to work. This is too short. I cannot. This is like over like 2 minutes." Like under 2 minutes, I don't think it's gonna work. And then he said, like, Kristhyan, you've been playing for 7 minutes. And I was like, I cannot believe it. Like, it was really mind blowing for me experience, liberating also as
Wow.
well. So for me, that album represents a lot, and makes me want to continue, like, do more research and do because it's not just like putting music and that's it. No, I mean, at least for me, I need some sort of like research concept, something that will get to people and start like seeing music, Latin American music, on a different way. I understand that sometimes people feel a little bit intimidated by Latin American music, or they feel that it's like minor, like, oh, the little pieces. But I encourage people to, you don't have to like it necessarily, but just try it, listen to it, and then you'll see. Same thing happened with regular standard classical music. Like, not a lot of people necessarily love opera, let's say. I don't understand that, but some people just say like it's too much for me. Yeah, but within, even within opera, there are operas that are different. So give it a try. Just don't block that, right away. And there's this beautiful worlds to discover once you give yourself permission to listen and to experience a little bit more.
Absolutely. What a great marketer you are too. Like there's a call to action. That's so awesome. No, well, I mean, I want to talk more about you as an improviser, but oh, I didn't realize it was just a one take. You sat down in front of the piano and then you did it.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that is
It was an
incredible.
amazing experience. And I have to say, I turned that piece into a score. So the process like was backwards, and it was so hard to try to, with the inflections and with the time that I was taking like while improvising, because it's some sort of like a low pace piece, like slow side. But then put it into a score. It was also like a challenge and an amazing experience, to transform that into like actual rhythms that kind of like match time signature, and like, so it was really entertaining, a lot of hard work, but I will do it again a million times.
So if I want to get a score, is it available?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Really? Oh, yes. Hook me up. I'm gonna buy it. Yes, I want to try it because yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed the album. There, yeah, very much.
Thank you.
Anyway, so to all our listeners and viewers, I strongly encourage you to check out Kristhyan's Grammy Award-winning solo piano albums, Latin American classics, and Afro-Cuban Dances. These albums are lively, delightful compilation of works by Latin American composers, sure to captivate anyone who gives a listen. So you can find them on all music streaming services, right?
That's correct.
Like,
Yeah.
yes. Okay, I will also post the links in the description. So we just started talking about improvisation, and I also watched your improv chops on YouTube channel. One was called the Carnival After Dark.
Yeah.
Wow, fantastic! So improvisation plays a significant role in your career, sounds like. And could you describe your creative process when you approach improvisation in the studio or during the live performance?
So this is when you say like it takes part of like in my career, yes, I I had to kind of like turn it off for so long. And I'm telling you a story. When I was 7 years old, and this is an interesting story that I discovered recently with my therapist. So everyone that have access to a therapist, please do it. It's the best thing ever.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh my God. Yes. So when I was 7, I had to. It was the first time that I was performing a concerto with orchestra, and it was a piece that a Venezuelan Argentinian composer wrote for me. Alejandro Slobodianic is his name. It's like the pianist name, but he's a composer from Venezuela, Argentina. Um, and it was a brand new piece. He gave me the manuscript, and I had to learn it. And it was during summer. I was 7, so for me, finishing school and then have summer vacation was like the dream come true. And I remember at that time, my teacher in Venezuela, she said like, no, you have to keep practicing all summer. You need to learn your new repertoire and then the concerto, because you have to play the concerto in September, and then it was June, so I had like very little time, and it was a new piece. Um, and then I was a little like mad. It was 7, and I remember my mom. And none of in my family there are no musicians. I'm the only one, but my mom was very dedicated, to understanding, the pieces. She was probably like the most strict judge that I had performing. Like it was so interesting. Like she really learned like the pieces, and she was understanding, and she was like, oh, you're rushing there and you're doing too loud, things like that. That it was really interesting. But at that time, she didn't know the pieces, because she had to like go to lessons and start listening to the pieces in order to get. And that new piece was the new piece. Like it didn't exist. So she said, okay, so the plan for the summer is you're gonna practice in the morning, and then in the afternoon you can play soccer. I love playing soccer, and then play with my Nintendo, my video games. I was like, okay, 7 years old. And but at the same time I was mad. I was talking to my friends at the time, and they were like, oh, I'm at the beach, I'm like doing this and that. I'm like, I'm here, like I have to
Right.
learn to beat. So what I did was that I started improvising pieces, like, and every day I was doing something different. And then my mom, I think like after 2 or 3 weeks, she called my teacher and said like, yeah, uh, he's ready. Like he's been playing the pieces for me, and they sounds great, and like I really like them. I was trying to always add some similar things so my mom could, you know, recall that same piece. But it was like, just do like shenanigans, like when and then my mom said like, okay, so I talked to your teacher, you're going to have a lesson because you're already ready. And then I started like weeping, like crying, and I was like, I have to confess, everything is made up, like I didn't, learn the pieces. And then so of course she was mad, but at the same time laughing. It was like a situation that and I remember that going that time to my teachers, that I kind of like turned off that, because it was kind of like forbidden, like, why are you not learning the piece, and you're being like playing with the piano, like literally playing games with the piano.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand it at the time, so I learned the piece after, and it was like just doing my standard repertoire. But I remember at some point, like adult age, remembering that story, I'm like, oh my god, I had that. I had it. It's still there, and it was like a very interesting process to kind of like getting it back. Um, I think like one of my biggest reference in terms of improvisation and also as a musician is Venezuelan pianist Gabriela Montero. I admire her so much. She's also a really good friend of mine, and I remember talking to her a little bit and saying like, I don't wanna, I don't want people to feel that I'm trying to copy what you do. And then she turned to me and then she said like, remember that improvisation exists not because of me, it exists because of music, because of Bach, because of the beginning of times. And I'm just telling you, the way you improvise is a completely different approach of what I do. So please go and fly and do what you want. And so my process is just connecting with the feeling that I have at the moment. Like sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work, and I'm happy that if sometimes doesn't work, it's okay. We're humans, like it's fine. um and it's just like I just let it go. Sometimes I think of a key, but it's so interesting that every time I start in a key, I finish in a different key. Is the key that the feeling like drives me to. But and if I need to be like, have some sort of a structure, I kind of like say, okay, maybe I have to do like a two-part thing, but that never happened. If I do, I'm gonna do like a ABA form, it end up being like a completely different thing. And I like that. I know that some people, they improvise with structure, and I admire that. Myself, i I don't. And I think like if I start like adding elements of structure to that, I will kind of like it would kind of like lose the natural element of what I imprint in my improvisations. So I kind of like let it go a little bit and just like do what I feel at the moment. It's a scary moment as well, because when you let it go, you have to let it go also everything, like things that you like, your fear. So everything is right there. The monsters are like next to you, but it's okay, it's part of you, and you have to let your monsters out and have coffee with you sometimes. And if they want to improvise with you, they're you they are open to, and then like I want them to be there with me, they're part of me. So it's just it's scary sometimes, but when I'm finished, it's like, okay, let's hear. And funny story is like I don't remember when I what I do. Like it's little things, but like there are things like, oh, I use that chord, like, and it's like, oh, that chord is nice. And then like, but I never like came up with a specific plan. So that's just my way.
Yeah, but it's almost like a free writing, like so. you're really in touch with yourself, inner self. So that's maybe one of the reasons you don't remember a specific chord that you use, no?
Yeah.
Right? Mm.
For me, it's like a meditation. I remember during the pandemic, everybody were like sending you like, okay, so start like meditating, and then like these apps and like everything, which I think they are like amazing tools. But my way of meditating was actually improvising. I was sitting in the piano and then just let go, and then I could even like cry, laugh, everything. But it was like always through piano. It's like yeah, I think like I don't see myself not in this life or not in our life without the piano. It's crazy, but it's just like it's who I am. It's part of me. So it's like it's my everything.
I was listening to many pieces this morning by you on Spotify, playing through, and then I came across your 2016 album, Miniatures,
Uh-huh.
which you earned the bronze medal at the Global Music Awards. And obviously, this album is entirely of your improvisation, no? Or arrangement.
Yeah,
Yeah. Wow. And then, I loved the piece called Two Poems, Opus 32, number one, F sharp major.
yeah,
And then also the intermezzo in E major. And
yeah,
then Mañanita Caracuenian.
yeah.
Wow. Am I pronouncing okay?
Perfect.
Okay. Did I pass? Okay, good. Oh, they were so good. So tell me, are they like based on certain melody or certain folk
Well, the
chant?
the 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 poem is by Scriabin.
Oh, okay. Oh, yes, yes, yes. Got it.
The idea of the whole album was to just it was playing live in a concert. Everything was live. So it was just like,
The album.
yeah, the whole album is live. So it was a concert that I did in Mexico City. I lived there for a year, and it was just right when I started living there that I had this opportunity to play this recital. Um, I didn't add all the pieces of the recital, um, but then these little jewels that I add here and there were like very special to me at that time. Still, they still are. And the Scriabin, it's nice that you mention it, because I've been talking to some Russian friends of mine, and they say like, yeah, I like it, but there's something different there. So I don't know. I think sometimes we grew up with the fact that we have to we follow the score, everything that the composer writes there, we have to do it, and yes, of course. But there's a moment in time in life that as performers, also we want to kind of like imprint a little bit what we are. And it's not just saying that the composer is wrong. I mean, there's nothing to do with that. It's just like we have this some sort of like necessity of show who we are. And if we play pieces written by different composers, then we also we give a little space to add here and there. I mean, of course, if I'm going to a piano competition and do that, like I'm not gonna pass. But after you pass all of that, which I think is an amazing experience to have, competitions and like concerts and all of that, and of course school, you need to learn the structure. That's something that a dear teacher of mine told me always. You need to first learn the structure, and then you deform it the way you want it. But you cannot deform it first. You need to understand how it sounds. You need to understand why the composer is writing that. Why is that happening? You know, um, and it was a very special teacher that I had in Germany. I was going to Hamburg for several summers, and her name was Elgin Roth, pianist, very from the old school. But it was so interesting that when we were learning Beethoven, we learned all five piano concertos by Beethoven. One of the big things that we did, and she was always saying that to me. Um, Learn the structure first, and then remember that Beethoven was a creative. Beethoven, when he was not able to hear the music, he was feeling the music. His universe inside was so big that it couldn't um, stand the real world. So it was like, for me, it was eye opening. And it's not that I'm do whatever I want, no, but like understanding the structure, and then you take little licenses here and there if you feel like it. It doesn't have to be that way. And then you see famous pianists. I think like one of the most amazing concerts that I've listened to in my life. It was here in New York, Lincoln Center. Martha Argerich playing, and Rostropovich was conducting. Like the last years. And she played Beethoven's first piano concerto. That's a concerto that she played like since she was a little kid. And the way that she was playing that at that time, I'm sure like she's like, if I listen to a concerto right now playing by her, it's going to be a completely different world. But it was so amazing, so unique. And I remember saying like, I want to be that pianist. I want to be that artist. I want to be the one that understand music, respect music, because I respect music so much. I respect composers so much, but at the same time, I want to put all of that in my own universe and in my own world, and I want to say it with my own words. Um, Sometimes when you're reading a book and then you're explaining the book, you're not saying what the book is saying. This, you use your own words. So we have to use our own words um, to express ourselves after we understand what is it about. So
Hey there, TPP family. The Piano Pod is now into our fourth season, and it's all thanks to you. Since 2020, you've been with my journey with the TPP, exploring this burning question: how do we make classical music resonate with today's audience in fresh and captivating ways? 4 years in, and the journey has been nothing short of magical. The Piano Pod isn't just a podcast, it's a movement, a space where pianists, composers, and educators brainstorm, debate, and reimagine classical music's place in our fast paced world. We're together on a mission to ensure classical music doesn't just survive, but thrives in our modern age. But here's the thing: to keep bringing you these insightful bi weekly episodes, I need your help. Every bit of support goes into the podcast essentials, from hosting to high quality recording tech and the countless hours behind the scenes. So, do you want to be part of this journey? Click the PayPal link in the show notes or head to thepianopod.com to donate. And as a token of appreciation, I will personally mail you the Pianopod's snazzy logo sticker. So hit the subscribe button, spread the word, and let's continue our mission and journey as classical musicians. Now let's continue with the show.
And then there's another aspect of you that is very interesting, that it's people that you work with, the collaboration. And I listened to the album Nosotros, which also, am I pronouncing correctly? Nosotros?
nosotros.
Which also won another award. And and you collaborated with many incredible talents in the Latin music industry. Jorge Glenn, Laura Guevara.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so many others. And I really enjoyed the album. That album is so special. So tell me about the collaboration. Tell me about the album.
That album is a homage to Venezuelan music, but Venezuelan music of different genres. From classical Venezuelan music for piano, all the way to like pop and boleros, like love songs, like all of huge range, with my current, which at the moment when I recorded that, it was I would just want to try to make a fusion between classical music and or classical elements or my way. Like I'm a classical pianist, trained pianist. Um, Merge with all of that and create some sort of like a minimal, uh, elegant approach to this music. And then the idea was to collaborate with people from complete different genres, like not classical musicians, like all from different music worlds, like singer songwriter, pop, rock, folk. Um, so it was really nurturing. It was amazing, an amazing process. I wish that that album had more um, impact, but it got released right when the pandemic started.
I see.
It was kind of like frozen in time, I guess. Like it's like in a little capsule. I love that album. Like it taught me a lot. It taught me a lot of one of what I want to do and what this kind of like homage that I was paying to Venezuela. I was like doing arrangements also of my own, and I asked other people to help me with arrangement. There's like a famous pop song that I turned into a kind of like a Rachmaninoff list piece. So it was going like using like pop music. I was like imagining Rachmaninoff listening to this song and creating his own arrangement, transcription of it. So things like that. And then I added, there's one track that I collaborated with a really good friend of mine. We add very 19th century Venezuelan tune and we turn it into electronic music with acoustic piano. And then it was like a interesting process. Um, I don't know. It was just some sort of like paying homage to my country, but at the same time paying homage to composers and creators that they are daring to express themselves through the years. And I think like one of the people that comes to my mind is Steve Reich. Um, that I remember the first time that I listened to what was the piece, like piano with electronics, like or the train, like what, like all of his compositions, like it really like blew me up. I was like, oh my god, like this guy is amazing. And so I wanted to some sort of like, not it's not the same, but I'm saying like just thinking of people that I um admire a lot, and Rachmaninoff of course is one of them.
Yeah.
And also there's one track inspired by jazz, and I admire so much Oscar Peterson. So it's like people that I listen to regularly, that I wanna kind of some sort of like get some sort of influence, but using classical music. So it was a very interesting project. Also, it was a project where my husband was executive producer. He was, I think, he was like the first one with the idea of doing things like that. He's a journalist. He doesn't come from the music world, but the way of that he sees like aesthetics and like, I don't know, like interconnections in art is very particular. And so he was the one that came up with the idea of that. So it was very like significant for me.
Yeah, I love it. I love it so much. Yeah. Now so far we've talked about you as a, pianist who plays Latin American music, but also, of course, you're a classical musician, you're a classical pianist, so you have that training as well. And so I'm curious to know, how was it like to perform under the buttons of renowned conductors like Claudio Bardo? Oh my God. And Gustavo Dudamel. Oh my goodness. And he is going to New York in 2 years,
Yeah.
right?
So first of all, I grew up in Venezuela, and in Venezuela, there's this social movement, musical movement called El Sistema, that was created by Jose Antonio Abreu. Um, my very first concert that I did um, when I was 4 years old, it was dedicated to Jose Antonio Abreu, and that from that time, I started having some sort of like a connection with El Sistema, and I think I mean I feel very honored and privileged to say that I had the opportunity to play with orchestra since I'm 7 years old. And I don't think like there's a lot of pianists that have that opportunity yet, like even like at like a older age, and I never took that for granted, and I owe that a lot to that program like El Sistema, that I was able to perform. Like I think like the most that I did, I think, in my career has been like playing concertos. Um, and that's something that I love, that I adore doing it, and I keep doing it. But it was because of that. I was growing up with all of these fantastic musicians, and one of them was Gustavo Dudamel. Was growing up there, and we had the privilege to play together, and it was amazing. Now, of course, he's a superstar. Um, but we kind of like grew up together, so like seeing all these people like shine as artists and also being nurtured by that through the years has been just amazing. And the moment when one of the things is I have to thank Hélène Grimaud, the pianist, because she got sick for a concert, and because she got sick, I'm sorry for that. That's when I got to play with Claudio. It was like a last minute thing. I played Rachmaninoff's Second Piano Concerto with him. It was the scariest moment of my life when I came to a first rehearsal, because I had only 1 week to prepare. I didn't know like that was gonna happen. I think like I practiced the most. I don't know, maybe like 14 hours or something like that. I mean, it was like crazy. Like I was just like, and also the responsibility. It was like playing for someone that I admire, like that I have albums, that I own albums, that it's like, the biggest, the biggest of the biggest. And it was one of the most amazing moments of my life. How kind he was, how connected with music he was, um, and I learned so much from him. He wanted me to do uh, at the very end of the third movement, before the coda, like the big climax. He wanted me to add like some octave, and it's like I really like it. I mean, I know it's not written, but can you please play the octave, like like playing some octave there? Um, and I keep playing those octaves till today. Every time I play a concerto, it's like, and it was an amazing time. He was playing a concert in Caracas with the Simon Bolivar Orchestra, um, and then Ellen, she came after and play a concert with him. But then, like for the first concert, she was not able to, and then I really thank her for that. She doesn't know me. I mean, we met there, but I don't think she remembers that, even that moment. And for me, it was like a moment in my life that it was just amazing.
But you are amazing because Rachmaninoff. Oh, it was a last minute thing. Rachmaninoff for the number two. I mean, it's not something that last minute thing that anyone can really. I mean, I'm sure you've practiced in the past,
Mm.
before, but well, that's
Yeah,
a
I think like growing up, and then see, that's one of the things that probably like growing up in Latin America or in Venezuela, that some things happen because of improvisation, because a last minute thing. And I had concertos that I had to learn, and I like last minute. I played Brahms' first piano concerto that I had to learn in 1 week. And I remember that, I mean, if I'm thinking about that right now, I'm completely crazy. But at that moment, I don't know, I just felt like I had like that rush of playing this and learning, and like of course the amount of stress was inhumane, but I really appreciate that, because of that is that I have like so many concertos that I perform, that I have them like on my repertoire, that I can and also learn from that. It's like a different configuration. You have the regular configuration of like learning a piece and have the whole process and have enough time to do it, and then also I had the opportunity to have that other experience, which is not ideal for everyone. There are people that are not suitable for it. um, I was doing it because I loved doing it. I love playing piano. I love playing with orchestra so much that it was like, I don't care, I'm gonna do it. It was just like that. And it taught me a lot. it taught me a lot how to like approach um, music on a different way nowadays.
Not just practicing in your own practice rooms for hours, but actually to do it with the orchestra, to do it with other musicians. That's when you learn the
Completely.
most, right? Yeah.
And I believe in collaboration. I believe in collaboration so much. I think this is one of the things that sometimes, like in the old school of classical music, that was not necessarily something good, like to collaborate or to But I always feel like I'm a better musician when I collaborate with others, or if I have an opportunity and I can help a friend get that opportunity as well. That is something that makes me happy, and I truly believe in that. I think that was something that maybe sometimes like ego, or like there are people that are like, "Oh, I don't want to give you my sources, or I don't want to give you my wisdom because and that talks a lot about insecurity, and that's another different topic. For me, it's all about what what is right, and understanding that in the music world, regardless of the genre of music, there's space for everyone. That doesn't mean like if there's someone that is extremely famous and there's another person that is also equally famous, that doesn't mean that they're gonna clash. They have their own moment. The audience, like, this is subjective. This is something that, and you're able to like 10 different artists. It's not just one. Like, and I believe in that, and I believe in like giving opportunity to people, collaborating with other people, interchange experiences, wisdom. And I think like one of my biggest dreams, um is I always say, like, I want to be extremely famous, but not because of fame or ego. I don't care about that. It's because that will be like my only way to help other people. Like, I want to have a foundation, an organization that helps young musicians to achieve their goal, something that not a lot of us had. There's no, like, there are organizations doing it, but like something that, there's so much talent in the world. And one of the most important things for us, that we are in this stage or in this age at this moment, after all of the experience that we had, is to plant, to plant that seed for next generations, by teaching, by giving master classes, by helping others. It's not just about winning Grammys and playing concerts. That's nice. Receiving the applause of the audiences, that's amazing. The energy is wow, but it's more wow when you see, that everything that you're doing and that you're working on, that you're like, fighting for, it's getting, new roots, and it's like developing in a different way. So I think that's one of the most important things for me in terms of like fame, collaboration, interaction with other musicians. Like, I love to play with musicians that they don't have to think the same way as I do, but some sort of like same values. The values of artistry, the values of being human, and the values of humility for me are very important. And passion, always passion. I'm from Latin
Yes,
America.
I can really sense your passion for here. Yes. No worries. No, so but just to be a little bit of, I don't know, I don't want to sound so cheap or anything, but or cheesy or anything, but Gustavo Dudamel is coming, and is there any future collaboration with you and him?
Yes, I'm doing a project with the Venezuelan American pianist Vanessa Perez and composer Stephen Bach. We have a special project of Latin music and classical. It's a two piano project. It's a solo recital two piano project and a two piano and orchestra project. That I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, but I'm gonna say it because, yeah, why not? We premiered the two piano project last year in Romania, and the plans are, we're gonna record the project. Is called A Fuego Lento, and it's a mixture of really famous music of Latin America turned into two piano arrangements by Stephen Bach, and some like original works by him as well. but turning like into like in a level of difficulty that is like, classical pianists, like, like technical and like contemporary music, and of course the Latin rhythm of it, and then we are mixing that with Rachmaninoff second piano suite, and some other things. So it's a project that we have, that we if someone is listening to this that is interested in, we're more than happy to play it for you anywhere in the world. That's the idea. It's an amazing project, and working with them, they're like family to me. It has been just a blessing. And one of the most important things is that we think alike. We want to expand the universe. We want to expand the universe of music. We want to help other people, um, and collaborating with great people. And there are so many great people in the world that yes, I mean, like, I think this is something worth mentioning, that project. And then yeah, other projects and other people I'm collaborating with, um yes, I cannot say that right now, but it's coming.
Okay. Now let's talk about identity. So I watched a YouTube clip of your performance of Piano Concerto in A major by Evencio Castellanos, Venezuelan composer, conductor, and so your music production profoundly embodies the spirit of Venezuela. I can really sense that. So, what significance does your native country, Venezuela, hold you in regards to your music making?
I mean, Venezuela is where I was born, where I grew up. Venezuela gave me the love of music. Venezuela gave me my family, my traditions. um Venezuela gave me a lot of things and took away things from me as well, that shaped me into the musician that I am right now. It also showed me uh, the beauty of arts through people, not necessarily through like landscape. We have beautiful landscape. Venezuela is beautiful. It's amazing. It's an amazing country. But I'm just saying, like, just be touched and be who I am through the people that I grew up with. And then it gave me also the opportunity to learn overseas. And I think that the most thing that I owe to my country, that it kind of like it gave me, and my family, of course, the support, um, but it gave me that kind of like platform to go and understand the real world. I think I left I lived a life, a privileged life, full of love, and I'm grateful for it, for my family and my friends, and my teachers. Um, and But I also need to see myself. What do I want to become? And that, because I was living in Venezuela, that gave me the opportunity to be, outside and understand me more. Um, and So yeah, Venezuela gave me my family. Venezuela gave me my husband. Venezuela gave, like, gave me so many things. And Even though I'm here and I've been in the States for so long, um, Venezuela is still in me, and it will always be, but it's just like on a different way. I don't see myself, as I told you in the very beginning of this, as a Venezuelan necessarily, but more as a Latin American, and even further, um, just as someone that had the chance to get some sort of spark from the universe and create. And I have a duty with that. So kind of like a as a worldwide artist. So just given what I what I was given um, to the world.
Then also you mentioned, when we were communicating that, you know, you as l- not only Latino artist, but
Mm.
also you mentioned bisexual artist. So can we talk about experiences as a
Yeah.
Latino and bisexual artist in the classical music industry? How have these aspects of your identity influenced?
It, it's interesting. It has been rough, I have to say. Like Venezuela is not necessarily like the open country that is very close, and I always felt that it was some sort of like alien. I was like weird. I was like, why do I have this dual, you know, um, way of see life? Like I like, and everything's like dual. Like for me, and I felt it was weird. And sometimes, people think that the music world, the arts world, is like, oh yeah, everything happened in the arts world is super open, and you can just do whatever you want, and it's not true. Sometimes it's the contrary, you know. So I think like one of the things, like now that I'm like older, um, is that I'm proud of who I am. I've been like going through like this like identity process that also influenced my music. I think like the way I'm playing piano right now is completely different from before, and that not mainly, but there's a lot of percentage that is due to understanding who I am and being proud of who I am as a human being. It has been tough, and you get like I don't know any or experience, but mine at this moment. But sometimes bisexuality is always seen as we're like the underdogs, I feel, of the LGBTQI community. Sometimes, I mean, I'm sure like a lot of people feel that way, and they belong to a different um, group. But in my experience, it's like they always like take it like, oh no, you're just closeted, or oh no, this and that, And I think the only entity, to call it that way, that understood myself, understood me all the way, has been the piano, like my best friend, my everything. So I feel that when I was playing piano, I was able to be completely myself, and I don't have to give any excuses to anyone. Just let it go. And so for me, like playing piano as well has been like very kind of like a cathartic like experience. I was able to tell people who I was or who I am without telling it with words. Now I'm happy, and I can tell it with words, and I'm proud, and I'm like, and I want other people that are feeling that way, especially young kids, which I'm sure that they're more advanced than us, for sure, to feel comfortable in your own skin. And the more comfortable you are in your own skin, the better artist and human you can be. And sometimes that doesn't go together for some people. It is so important. The stimulation that you get from like exterior like agents, like even like watching TV, going to a park, everything influence the way you approach music. So if you're not happy with who you are, then the music is going to be broken. And you want that to be a beautiful sphere. And if you want to break it, it's your decision. It's not because the social construct or people or bullying or anything. I'm completely against that. Um, so yeah, I've been always. I think like I've been okay with the fact that because I have the piano and I can be myself there, I didn't have necessarily that urge before. Also with the Latin culture, which was very like macho, like oriented. Um, and now I'm just who I am. I'm free. I'm happy. And if there are people that they feel threatened or they don't like it, or it's okay. It's fine. I think like that's part of like the diversity, that you don't have to like everything, but respect is something that we all have to give and we have to receive.
Thank you. I didn't mean to really, label you in any ways,
Oh, no, 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 no.
by talking about, bringing Venezuela, for example. And I understand you've lived in this country for a long time. So, when someone does that to me about, my origin, native country, it's like, sometimes it's like, please, I've been here too long. I don't, so I don't
Yeah.
mean that, but, I
Oh,
was
no, no,
very
not at all.
fascinated about how complex we are as human beings. And then these days, as hard as you mentioned, challenging as it can be, but then you still can express yourself that way in a complex way.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So that's
totally.
that's that's the reason I asked all these questions. So I don't mean to really.
I don't take, no, 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 no. Thank you. I think like this is like, it's good. It's liberating for me. Thank you for, yeah, thank you. Like sometimes people get scared of asking things, and it, there's the worst thing that could happen is I can tell you, no, I'm not gonna, as you say, like I'm not I'm happy to, I'm an open book, especially
Thank
now.
you.
Of
I
course.
appreciate that. I
Of
appreciate
course.
you. Yeah, it's a great conversation. Anyway, I want to know your alter ego, Benitez, and then, because Mr. Benitez has his own Instagram account, and I'm following you, and then also the music streaming service account as well. So tell us.
So Benitez is an extension of me. Benitez is well, it it's a reason to say that I love music regardless of the genre. I come from the classical music, and I will be playing classical music all of my life because that's part of me, and I love it so much. But also, I can do other things. People they, they have the right to do other things and just not be labeled for one thing. So the reason to create Benitez was to explore a little bit of my side of creating music, always using the acoustic piano, but go a little further, um, using electronic elements, doing music for film. I am actually I just work in a fashion film. I did the music for a very small fashion film for
Wow.
the entertainment Latin America, and so it's amazing, that you have to like your universe expanded. It's not just piano. It's not just like the way it's also like, okay, you need to understand a visual. You need to give it a different place. um Creating music right now, I think Benitez is going through like a lo-fi era. Is creating music with acoustic piano and like electronic elements. One of my dreams, I would say, is to play a concert. It's Kristhyan Benitez and Benitez in the same stage, and then showing me classical pianist, and then showing Benitez, and have kind of like a collaboration together. It's like Christian Benitez featuring Benitez,
Wow, that sounds so amazing. Yes.
where these two worlds, they're the same world.
Mm.
It's just like sometimes it's not understood by by everyone. And I think for now, also for me, like I'm like entering this new world, and it's good to kind of like separate it, and then I think eventually it just will merge into just one. So maybe Benitez will be just everything in the future, who knows.
Yeah.
But
Who
I
knows?
encourage
Right?
people
Mm.
to, first of all, to all classical musicians there, that you love classical music but you also love electronic music, you love pop, you love rock, you love everything else, do it. It's gonna enrich your classical performance. It's gonna enrich you as a human being. And if you have moments where people are saying like, "Oh, so now you are a classical, or you are a pop, or you are electronic, or you can be everything." Just always do it with love and with a lot of responsibility. Just don't take it, as like a, oh, whatever. No, do it with responsibility, do it with discipline, do it with love. But you can do everything, and that's true. That is not a cliche.
Thank you. So powerful. So, what's your next phase? I know new album is coming up soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have the Latin American Classics Volume 2. It's coming in the fall. So we in this one, I'm trying to add more countries. It's inevitable not to add Venezuela. Venezuela is there. Cuba is there. It's Mexico is there again. Argentina, but then I'm adding Brazil, Colombia. Um, uh, there's for Walter Bolivia that actually Walter gave me some suggestions of repertoire that I really thank him a lot. So it's gonna be there's gonna be a lot of variety in that, and I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to this album to continue the catalog. So the idea is to create in the future 3 volumes of this. So the fact that we're doing the second volume right now, it's a dream come true. There are gonna be some side projects like Afro-Cuban Dances, who was kind of like it's part of it, but it's like just specific for Lecuona. There's something coming there, Lecuona related again next year. um, and just stay tuned. Just go to my social media. I always like post. Think I'm not as regular as I should be. Sorry for my husband that he always like encouraged me to post more things. But I'm always trying just to be myself and post things that I like. Um, and play and improvise and eventually I want to be able to to communicate more with people. I One of the things, and this is changing just a little bit the subject, but one of the things that I remember when I won the Grammy is that I remember someone told me that, oh, you're famous now, then what are you gonna do, like replying to people messages and all of that? And I say, like, I don't care if I'm like you know famous as the most famous people in the world. I will always go and reply to every single one of them. And I remember when I won, I got, I don't know, it was like maybe like 3 or 4 thousand messages, and I replied to every single one of them because they're taking the time to listen, to celebrate with you, to listen to your music. They're giving you time, and I'm giving them my appreciation and my time and my thank you.
Well, thanks. What a wonderful conversation I had. I enjoyed thoroughly. My heart is full because of
Thank you.
there's a really enriching conversation. But before I let you go, we have one more thing to do,
Yeah.
which is the piano pod rapid fire questions. So whether you like it or not, here we are. So I'll ask some silly questions, but be careful because these questions tend to be a little tricky because that shows really your answers may reveal who you truly are.
Okay.
So get ready. And so I want you to answer them as short responses as possible. So we'll start with level 1.
Okay.
Question number 1. What is your comfort food?
Pasta.
Oh, yes. How do you like your coffee in the morning?
Double shot espresso.
Sounds great. Cats or dogs?
Definitely dogs.
Sunrise or sunset?
Sunset.
Summer or winter?
Fall.
Okay. I'll allow it. Level 2. What skill have you always wanted to learn but haven't got the chance to?
To dance like NSYNC.
Sounds like insane. That's a very specific era. What is your word or words to live by?
Passion.
Passion. Mm. What is the most important quality you look for in other people?
Truth.
Name 3 people who inspire you, living or dead.
Rachmaninoff. Rubinstein. Wow. There's so many.
I know, right?
I'll say Scriabin.
Okay, great. Now, 2 more. Now, these are difficult ones. Name 1 piece in your current playlist.
One piece.
Mhm.
Like classical music piece.
Anything.
Godowski Java Suite.
Okay. Last question. Fill in the blank. Music is blank.
Music is my everything.
Ding ding. Thank you. That was great. So this concludes this episode of the Piano Pod. Thank you, Kristhyan, for joining my show today and sharing your stories and expertise. I enjoyed it so much. So for the Piano Pod's listeners and viewers, please visit K Benitez, K as in letter K, Benitez.com to learn more about Kristhyan's career and connect him on social media. All the links are listed in the show notes. Thank you to my wonderful audience and fans for tuning in today. If you enjoyed today's episode, please rate and review it on whatever podcasting platform you use. Remember to hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you are watching from YouTube. Follow TPP on social media to get the latest news via Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. I will see you for the next episode of the Piano Pod. Thank you, Kristhyan. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.